You know, of all the pieces that have made the leap from workwear to casual wear, one of the ones that just never seemed to do it was overalls. Apart from a brief time in the 80s and the 90s where they were usually worn with one strap undone, these are something that usually stayed in the realm of workwear, and that's just fine by me. Now, if you've never worn overalls and you've never actually experienced their benefits, you're really missing out. If you've never felt the utility that you get with a great chest pocket and all the spots that you could put things up there, the extra abrasion resistance that you get with a bib in front of you, and actually how comfortable they really can be. Matter of fact, even in the heat and stuff where you'd think that more fabric was actually worse, the ability to kind of take that thing and sort of flap it around and give yourself a breeze, it's something that really can't be overlooked. So I've taken 4 pairs of bibs to compare in this video. Now there's many other brands out there, but for the purposes of this video, I'm comparing Carhartt, Duluth Trading Co, Patagonia, and Roundhouse. Now, when it came to choosing a model from each brand, I tried to just get their most mainstream model. Carhartt especially has many different variations of bibs with insulated and ripstop options, but I went with the general purpose, non-insulated models across the board. One other note is at the time that I ordered these, Roundhouse only had their denim model in stock. So this isn't exactly an apples to apples comparison, but I'd imagine that their duck offering is probably comparable. Let's begin with the construction. Each pair of bibs is made with a unique material which might suit your needs better than others. Carhartt is made with their legendary 12-ounce duck canvas. Duluth uses an 8-ounce stretch duck canvas. Patagonia used their 12.9-ounce hemp blend duck. And Roundhouse is made from an unlisted weight, non-selvage denim. All but the Roundhouse have double knees, with Carhartt using a chap style for full leg coverage, while Duluth and Patagonia have a 1-foot section of double fabric at the knee. Now, this may be a big factor for you depending on how you use your pants. If they take a lot of abuse in the lap area where the extra coverage may be required, then maybe the Carhartt is the one for you. Each pair though, except for the Roundhouse, has bottom openings for clean out or knee pad inserts. The Roundhouse and the Patagonia use bar tacks in place of rivets at stress points, whereas the Carhartt and the Duluth Trading Company both use rivets like you'd normally see on jeans. Now this may be a pro or a con depending on your work, of course. If you're working near finished surfaces, which can scratch easily, then rivets might not be for you. Maybe you'll want to look at the Patagonia or the Roundhouse. And it's definitely a point of argument as to which one is stronger, a bar tack or a rivet for stress. Each company uses a traditional shoulder strap design with 2 clasps located at collarbone level. Now, of course, each company does the strap just a little bit differently and the clasp. The Roundhouse bibs use 2 solid strips of denim, while the other 3 companies use a small elastic segment for flexibility. Of the 3, the Carhartt is by far the most substantial and the stiffest. Patagonia is somewhere in the middle, and the Duluth Trading Company is the easiest to stretch. Now, as for the clasps, Roundhouse uses a very simple spring steel clasp which easily clips onto a very nice enameled logo button. No reinforcement or frills, just a simple solution. Patagonia operates in a very similar fashion with a thicker spring steel clasp, which actually has a little spacer at the bottom, ostensibly to keep them from making too much noise. Duluth Trading employs the same beefier spring clasp with spacer and takes things one step further with a reinforcement of material at the buttons. Carhartt, on the other hand, spins the whole thing on its head and uses a slotted clasp, which is reinforced and then riveted to the bibs. This clasp does take a little bit of practice, but I found them to be the least obtrusive and most flexible option, being able to flex right along with your movement. Each is closed at the midsection with a set of buttons at the waist. Now, these can be worn open or closed to fit your body type or your layering underneath. But again, there are some differences. Carhartt has the largest buttons with a small elastic section for flex. This really does feel nice when you're moving around, and I didn't notice the confining effect that you usually get when you wear bibs. Duluth, on the other hand, offers 2 sets of buttons on each side, allowing you to adjust the bibs by about 1.5 inches on each side for a total of 3 inches of adjustment. Now this is a great solution and will come in really handy if you wear a thicker layer underneath but you still want to be buttoned up. Patagonia and Roundhouse offer 2 buttons on each side for the most simple and straightforward approach. It should be noted, however, that the Roundhouse is by far the tightest of the bunch, even though they're all marked as a 34-inch waist. I'd consider myself about average, not being a skinny guy nor having a pot belly, but this was tight on me to the point where I preferred unbuttoning the top buttons. So, if you're a bigger guy, this may be of concern to you. Moving down the bibs, the Carhartt offers the longest fly of all, which is a huge improvement over my old Carhartt models. The shorter flies tend to make bathroom breaks a real pain, so this is a welcome change. Now, of the 4 models, the Patagonia and the Duluth are the only 2 with crotch gussets. This is a feature which has gained popularity, thankfully, and it really does help when you're crouching or kneeling down. It also extends the life of the bibs by relieving a little bit of stress in that spot where they tend to blow out. The Duluth and the Carhartt are reinforced at the leg opening, with Carhartt taking the cake with a very generous section of double fabric to protect against normal wear and tear that you experience at work. The Duluth bibs feature 2 hammer loops, 1 on each side, while the other 3 have a more traditional carpenter pant layout with 1 hammer loop each. Some people find hammer loops to be useful, and it depends entirely on your usage and your choice of tools. For example, a wooden handle slides nicely into a fabric hammer loop, while a rubber handle tends to get hung up really easily. Here's where things start to get interesting. Each pair of bibs has a slightly different pocket layout with entirely unique approaches to the chest pocket. So let's break this category down into 2 subsections, the main body pockets and then the chest pocket. The Patagonia bibs seem to really go for a thoughtful yet minimal approach with the least number of pockets, 2 front, 2 back, and 1 side leg pocket. Do you really need more than that? Only you can answer. Well, if so, then the Roundhouse adds 1 more leg pocket with one of those 2-in-1 types of pockets, for lack of a better term. The Carhartt and the Duluth feature the most pockets, with 2 front, 2 back, a 2-in-1 leg pocket, and a single leg pocket on the opposite leg. You simply can't seem to fill these things up, and I appreciate the utility of 2 leg pockets in most tasks. Of course, we need to discuss pocket design. Roundhouse and Duluth follow the same classic formula like you've always found on 99% of pants. Patagonia has squared off the corners of their front pockets, which makes clipping things to them much easier. Carhartt took things to the extreme yet again, with massively squared off corners on their front pockets. Now, this may seem a little gimmicky at first glance, but in use, they're actually a slam dunk. You can clip a radio, a tape measure, or almost anything you want to these pockets with ease and convenience without looking. For many, this feature alone will be the one which decides the winner. The convenience of the Carhartt pockets really can't be overstated. Possibly, the single greatest thing about wearing bibs is that chest pocket. With more storage and organization than most work pants, once you get used to it, it's really hard to go back. And of course, each brand did things just a little bit differently. Patagonia again went with a minimal approach with a 7-inch zippered pocket large enough for a smartphone and 2 smaller pockets beneath. The larger pocket is 7 inches wide and can be closed with a snap, while the other is approximately 2 inches wide and works well for writing instruments. It's a simple approach, but it works really well. Roundhouse went with a symmetrical pocket layout with 2 large 4¼ inch wide pockets that close via snaps and 2 smaller 1-inch wide pencil pockets. The left pocket has a neat little trick with a side opening, probably left over from the days where pocket watches were the norm. After all, that's what the large buttonhole on the front of most bibs was traditionally used for. In typical Duluth Trading Company fashion, the fire hose bibs went for a more is more approach with a large 8½ inch main pocket with snaps, a smaller 4¾ inch Velcro pocket, and then 4 pen pockets. There's no lack of storage on this chest pocket, and they've even included a small loop on the left side for something. Carhartt appears to have the smallest chest pocket, but upon further inspection, you'll see that the main 7-inch zipper pocket is actually sewn into the body of the garment. This main pocket has a small flap over the zipper, which is perfect for keeping sawdust or whatever debris is flying around out of the pocket. It may seem like an insignificant detail, but I noticed that when I use the main pockets on bibs, I rarely close it up, so this little flap actually does come in handy. Below that are 2 3½ inch wide pockets and 3 smaller pencil pockets. The fit is slightly different on each, with the Duluth and the Carhartt seeming to be the most generously cut. The Patagonia felt somewhere in the middle, and the Roundhouse being trim as I mentioned before, especially with the side buttons closed. Now, I wouldn't suggest sizing up or down on the first 3, but definitely check your measurements if you choose to order a pair from Roundhouse, because I was surprised at the cut of these. Not surprisingly, the Patagonia is priced the highest at $130, and they are made in Sri Lanka. Second highest are the Duluth bibs at $90, and they're made in Vietnam. Finally, tied for lowest price is the Roundhouse and Carhartt at $80 each, with Carhartt being made in Nicaragua and Roundhouse, of course, being made in the USA. Now, of course, all this data means absolutely nothing if the bibs can't serve a useful purpose in real conditions, and each one has something unique to offer. The Carhartts felt the most robust. Even though the fabric is second thickest, it's definitely the most rigid, which is nothing new for anybody used to Carhartt gear. Everything from the strap clips to the pockets feels heavy duty and ready to take on some real abuse. I found that I was never wanting for more storage features, and the little touches make the real difference, and they make them the most user-friendly of the group. I'm a big fan of those front pockets, the longer fly, and the stretch panels on the side, which make these surprisingly easy to use despite their heft. But the one downside is those strap clips. They do tend to get easier with use, but hypothetically, if you had a burrito from the lunch truck and you need to make an urgent trip to the porta potty, seconds do count. The Duluth bibs were very similar to the Carhartt, but they felt more suited to warm weather or if movement is your high priority. The lighter stretch material made me forget that I was wearing bibs a few times, which is really high praise. The gigantic pockets seemed to swallow up small tools, and I found that it took considerable time to empty them out at the end of the day. More than once I thought, oh, that's where I put that, when digging through the pockets. The one thing I found lacking on these was a good secure zipper pocket. I really like being able to keep my phone in the main pocket on the Patagonia and the Carhartt, but the snaps let wood shavings and concrete dust fall into that main pocket pretty easily. Not the end of the world, I admit, but it's a nice thing to have. The Patagonia Iron Forge bibs were definitely the most comfortable. It's pretty incredible that the thickest material can also be the softest, and I think that's the main selling point of these bibs. They're the pair which I'd recommend to anybody as a first pair if they haven't worn bibs before. That Iron Forge hemp really is something special, and I did enjoy the main zippered pocket, but I found myself missing the second leg pocket. So when you're used to carrying maybe a utility knife on one side and a screwdriver on the other, it really kind of throws you off. Other than that though, these are the easiest wearing set of bibs. I hate to admit that I was really disappointed in the Roundhouse bibs. And these were probably the ones that I was really rooting for, especially being a great old American company. I figured they'd be utilitarian but endearing like an old pickup truck. Instead, they felt trapped in time with none of the conveniences of the other three. On top of that, the finishing was kind of poor throughout. The stitches weren't even, there were loose threads everywhere, and the overall feel was just kind of antiquated. Now, I do like the enameled buttons and the snaps with the Roundhouse logo on them, but beyond that, this was the pair that I really didn't enjoy wearing, which kind of pains me to say. Now I have to say this really isn't an apples to apples comparison. This is kind of just a cross section from 4 great brands to give you an idea of what maybe is best for you. You know, it should be said that Carhartt has a lighter weight model, kind of like the Duluth one, and Duluth has a heavier weight model, kind of like the Carhartt. The other 2 brands, Patagonia only has the one, and then Roundhouse, I believe, has just a couple of different models in a few different fabrics. So you may be able to find something that, you know, if you want to blend the thicker material of the Carhartt, but you like the pocket layout of the Duluth or something, you could probably get a little bit of a blend there. It's just something that I wanted to mention. This isn't exactly an apples to apples comparison. But I think the most important point here is that there is no clear winner, because somebody who's doing work on a farm is going to have much different needs than somebody who's hanging steel. It's just 2 completely different tasks which you need different clothing to do. So which one is going to be best for you? Are you going to be the guy who needs the stretch and the lightweight material and the crazy pocket layout of the Duluth? Or are you going to be somebody who likes the more tried and true, classic, almost like old school Roundhouse looking ones? Or maybe something in between with the Patagonia and the Carhartt. That's something that only you can answer. As far as my own use goes, I've actually kind of found a place for 3 of these. The Roundhouse, I gotta be honest, I wore them just to test, and after that, I didn't wear them again. I just don't find them as comfortable as the other ones. As much as I love the whole idea of an old made in the USA company, I can't get behind them. It's just too bad because I was really rooting for them. Now, there are other companies out there which I wanted to try. Unfortunately, LC King didn't have anything at the time that I went to order these. I think 1620 Workwear may have a set of bibs that I would like to try. Dickies, of course, was left off this list. Arborwear, Ariat, there are a lot of companies out there, but without making a video that's gonna be an hour and a half long, it's hard to do that. So maybe what I'll do in the future is pick 4 more brands and compare those. And then maybe, you know, you could have a bit of a library to choose what's best for you. After all, that's kind of what these videos are supposed to do. Hey, by the way, real quick, have you checked out the video that I ranked all of my 40 pairs of boots? Well, if not, go ahead and check it out right here. Honestly, it was pretty ridiculous and kind of embarrassing. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. All of these pairs will be listed and linked in the description below. Please chat with me in the comments. I love talking to you guys down there, and I'll catch you next time.